Welcome to Real Estate 101. We'll discuss home loans, home inspections, title service, and realtor services. Today I have Cammie from Hillsborough Title, Michelle from USA Mortgage, and Kevin from Buyers Protection Group. And we will discuss briefly what each of our roles are in real estate and do about 10, 15 minutes of that. And then we'll go into other questions that you may have regarding real estate transactions that the panel can answer. So Cammie, you're up on top to my right. Please feel free to introduce yourself and your role in real estate.
Well, I'm Cammie Couture. Ooh, that's really echo. I'm Cammie Couture, and I work for Hillsborough Title Company. We're here to protect the customer, the lender, to assure them a clear title before the loan company secures their loan. And we're also here for the realtors. And what we do on that, we assure them a good closing, in a professional manner. And then,
can you share what the purpose of title insurance is? Just briefly, what is title insurance?
Title insurance, basically, we run title on the property so that we know there will be no liens, deeds of trust, or anything when the homeowner buys the property, or when the lender, we do a loan policy for the lender to assure them that all the deeds of trust are released, liens, judgments, and things of that sort.
Okay, so it's kind of like an insurance policy in reverse. When we go out and get fire insurance, fire coverage for our property, we're insuring it from the date of insurance to a period of time in advance. This is to clear up any hiccups or blemishes that.
Correct. And then we insure the homeowner or their lender. So anything that comes up from the back chain or the back owner or anything, we're given title insurance so that they will not be liable for that.
I hear oftentimes, what's the purpose of this, and why do I need title insurance? That's everybody's looking to do cost savings, but all these things are very, very important when one's out purchasing a home.
Absolutely.
Has anybody else have any comments or questions for Cammie on title insurance or what the title company role is?
Cammie, I have a good example that I use for my borrowers when they ask me what title insurance is and why they need it. I tell them about a situation of someone I know that has a property up at the lake that they bought with cash and did not get title insurance on, and they do not have clean title. So they can't sell it. They have to go back through and try to get it cleaned up because the previous owner is nowhere to be found.
A lot of people go out and buy stuff on courthouse steps. And then they'll come in, they'll buy it for, a couple $1,000s, but then there's a deed of trust on it for $8,000. And when you purchase that property, it's yours. So we always encourage everybody to do title insurance.
It's one of those important things that people don't realize how important it is until there's a hiccup that comes up on that property.
Correct.
Michelle, would you share a little bit about your role as a lender in the real estate process?
Sure. So I will meet with the client and help ensure that they understand everything that is entailed in the mortgage process, how much they can be pre-approved for. Some people don't understand that when they're looking online at the different payments that are available, that it does not include taxes and insurance, what all the different loan programs are, and the intricacies of each. Each one is different. And depending on what area of the state that you're purchasing in, you may qualify for financing with no money down. Depends on your overall credit file. Every situation is different. So talking with the lender up front and understanding what you can afford from a budget standpoint, not just how much income do I need to have to afford this type of a house. You look at things that are not on your credit report that you like to do, such as going out to eat or savings if you donate to any organizations. So we look at all of that, and then we look at what fits within your budget and what you can qualify for. So as thorough of a process as I can to ensure that they are understanding what you're talking about. 30 years. You're taking a loan out for 30 years. It's a huge commitment, and understanding what all is entailed in that is what I do.
When would you suggest a borrower, a buyer, contact you? Right when they find a house or find a property, or months before?
I would say 3 to 6 months out. If you don't know anything about your credit file, what your credit looks like, even 6 months, because if there's something out there that you're not aware of, then you can start working on that right away. If you're familiar with what your credit looks like, 3 months is probably sufficient, but still understanding prior to starting that home search and falling in love with that home that's much more than you can afford, it's a good idea to talk to the lender and understand what you could be qualified for.
Do you have people that will give direction to people who have credit blemishes that they can straighten things out to position themselves to get a better loan?
Oh, absolutely. I will try to talk them through as much as I possibly can for free. I will do a free credit review, but then I do have credit repair agencies because sometimes it just needs that next step to clear some of that stuff up.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, tell us about what you do and the importance that you play in a real estate transaction.
After the house, after the client finds the house and they write a contract on it, usually they want to find out the condition of the house. So that's where we come in. We're contracted to go in and do a condition assessment and home inspection on the house, and we go in and check all the receptacles, the plumbing, go on the roof and the attic, and pretty much do a pretty thorough inspection on the house, and give them a report based on the condition. So checking for termites, well and septic, if they have a well and septic, do radon testing, sewer laterals, which is checking the inside of the sewer pipe on the outside of the house, and then also gas inspections if there's gas involved. So the client wants to know the condition, because if there's anything that they didn't see when they were looking at the house to put the contract on it, they can go back to the current owner and negotiate again.
And the type of inspector, can you explain? Just a building inspector, all building inspectors created equal, or is there a designation that you earn to carry credibility in your inspections?
That's a good question. In Missouri, there is no licensing for home inspectors. So most clients and most realtors want you to have some certification, whether it be ASHI, which is American Society of Home Inspectors, or one of the other ones. There's several other ones that do the same thing. They have a standards of practice and a code of ethics that the certified inspector has to go by. So in some other states, there is licensing for home inspectors, but not in Missouri. So you want to kind of look at the inspectors and give them a call before you do your inspection, and see how much experience they have, and kind of get a good feel for the inspector.
Awesome.
And Ralph, what about you?
What about me? Well, as a realtor, I wear different hats. When I am working with the seller, I represent the seller's interest and try to help negotiate the seller's best interest. A buyer, I go out and try to represent the buyer's best interest and help negotiate a offer that's in the best interest of the buyer. Oftentimes that may be for the best possible price, but there's other considerations in that. If someone is in a position with multiple offers and their house is sold and they need to move, position that offer to be the best offer on the table that represents that buyer. As a realtor, I'm not an attorney. I help give guidance. I don't look at myself as a real estate salesperson, I look at myself more as a consultant. I help people understand the market, show them the comparables and how that property fits in the market, whether they're buying or selling. And as a real estate professional, I help them, give them direction to the team that I work with, like the three of you here. You know, we all work together, and you know, a good thing to realize is that wearing a seller's hat or a buyer's hat, some buyers fail to realize that they like to go out and call the listing agent and start asking questions and telling their life story to the listing agent. And then when, say Michelle does that and she shares her story and that she just had this big inheritance and she's ready to buy and that's the most beautiful house she ever seen, and she's a cash buyer, and then she calls me to write the offer, to show her the property and write the offer. She's put herself at a disadvantage because now that listing agent has information that can be held against her. So it's very important, not that when I work with a buyer that I want to hone in and not let them talk to other people. I encourage all listing or for buyers to interview agents. Like, you know, Kevin said, you know, you talk and find out who has a good reputation of serving the community and serving the people they represent, to go out and help that person through that real estate transaction. And as a realtor, I cannot steer and say, well, you only can use Hillsborough Title or USA Mortgage or Buyers Protection Group. However, knowing that these people have given me good service to my past clients, these are people that, you know, come with high remarks, but it's the consumer's right to choose who they want. So my direction as a realtor is to help people, guide them through the process, give them information that they can make a good decision. I am not here as legal counsel. Oftentimes I get a call that somebody has wanted to buy a for sale by owner or is in a contract with another agent and there's a hiccup, and they are looking to me to give them advice. And if I'm not part of the transaction, I've got to back off. I'm not an attorney, so I have to back off and you know, let them contact an attorney, go to the resources that can help them in that. Kevin's comment about the inspections, as a realtor, when the inspections come back, a lot of times people will ask, what should I ask for? You know, it's what concerns them, and oftentimes I try to set the stage in the very beginning to, if there's, let's say, a roof that's near its end of its useful life and we're aware of that, you know, let's negotiate that in the offer. Okay, don't wait for, you know, spend the money on an inspection and then come back to try to negotiate that. Let's say ask for that up front. You know, the inspection to me is more hidden defects that are in the property. As a realtor, I can't allow people open electric panels and stick their fingers in the electric boxes. A little bit too much liability there. So that's where you get a professional in to do that. I don't give people advice in lending. I give them direction where to go. Likewise with title companies, give them direction to title companies that I know have given good service in the past, so that the transaction will be a smooth transaction. Because sometimes, as we know, there's a lot of .com companies that can be challenging, you know, that don't have the best interest of the client in mind. So, Cami, would you like to? You have other questions or comments? Would you of the you know, like of Kevin? You know, share some things about. Okay, we do an inspection, and now there's repairs to be made, and in the process we negotiate. yes, there's a roof to be replaced that we didn't realize. So now you have this expense of this roof. What are some things important to the title company when a situation like that arises? Is it lien waivers? What would the title company require when repairs?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking Kevin.
No, I said Kevin, I'm sorry.
Well, we actually do dispersing also, but it allows them to see, like if he says there's termites or something like that, we get all that fixed ahead of time. And I didn't hear the whole question. I got interrupted, but
no, sorry. I guess the point I was trying to make is the question I was posing is to a title company. Is it important, or what do you like to see with inspections, negotiation, when we do the inspection notice and the seller agrees to fix the roof or fix a termite do a termite treatment? What does the title company need? Do they need lien waivers?
Absolutely. We got to have bills and lien waivers that are paid, supplier and whoever did the job. I'm sorry.
Michelle, how does that work into the lending process? Is there anything that you like to comment on, cleaning up the property, basically, I would call it, from the inspection report? There's a roof to be put on, termites to be treated or whatever. From the lending aspect, what does a consumer need to know?
Well, once the inspection's completed, and if there are repairs that are noted on the inspection, then we want to see that work's completed. And whether that be the inspector go back out, or if there's lien waiver supplied, same that Cammie said, I always highly suggest that the borrower get a home inspection. I feel that is one of the most important steps of buying a house, because you don't know the intricacies. You didn't build it. You've not lived there. You've not input the wiring. Who knows what the age of certain things are, even if they're on the seller's disclosure or not. And so we don't necessarily require a review of it. We kind of lean back on the realtor and the borrower to let us know. But if there are things noted on it, we definitely want to see those fixed.
Absolutely.
I do have a question real quick for Kevin. With the government loans that we do out here, so you said that in the state of Missouri, you're not required to be licensed, but you guys go through pretty strenuous certifications for government inspections, correct? To be able to do like a USDA inspection or a VA inspection?
Not really. Nope.
No? How do you guys know what the requirements are for the government loans?
Well, they all be separate, but now they're all kind of combining all of that. The USDA has the same requirements as FHA and VA now, so
right.
It's pretty much left up to the inspector now. Now with FHA and VA, the appraiser's in charge of the case. They're the ones that go in and do the checklist format, and the inspector is kind of a secondary part of that.
So I know that there's still some appraisers out there that are not FHA certified, so they're not HUD certified to do that. Do you guys get calls to do that inspection, that part of the inspection?
Not so much FHA and VA, but USDA we still do some. Not as many as we used to, because the appraisers take care of most of that. People are still going to want to get a home inspection, and whether we do the USDA and FHA part of it or not, we still do it. So, they'll still want us to fill out some of the forms sometimes, but usually the appraiser does that.
Just going to make a comment real quick for the listeners. If you type /Q, and then your question, it'll pop up, and feel free to ask any of us a question, and participate so we can answer the things that you have on your mind. Kevin, you talked about
Michelle. Oh, sorry, Ralph. Go ahead.
You talked about FA or appraisers, and you brought up a point that I think there's some clarity that would be I love to share. Sometimes buyers think that the appraiser is the inspector. Then once the appraiser appraises a house, they've done an inspection. Now, the level of expertise that the appraiser does, and correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen an appraiser climb up on the roof to inspect the roof. However,
Yeah.
I see you guys do that. The appraiser, in most cases, I don't, to the best of my knowledge, they don't have the expertise of a inspector, but they basically fill out a report, check a report on very obvious things like open splices or, something to that effect, peeling paint. But the appraiser's report is truly not a true inspection report.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. They're going to be there, depending on the appraiser, they're going to be there anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour, probably. There's some that are, they do a pretty thorough job, but they're not going to go in the attic. They're not going to go on the roof. They're not going to take the electrical panel off to cover off the panel. They're not going to do an in-depth inspection and investigation into some of the things they find. So that's why most people, even though the house is appraised, are still going to get an inspection. And I think FHA used to have a document that they used to make the client sign that said that they were told by the lender that this is not an inspection, that you should get your own inspection. Is that right, Michelle?
For your protection of the home
Yes.
inspection.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, and they will have that. Yes, and that's exactly what I tell them. What Ralph said. The appraiser is really there just to certify obvious hazardous stuff such as handrails, but the inspector is going to go through with a fine-tooth comb. It is completely different. But yeah, FHA still has that form.
Okay.
Now, Michelle, on this new TRID changes, how does that affect our new buyers? Because they all think they can close really quick. And now with you having to wait a little bit longer, can you explain that to them?
So we're just finding that everybody getting together and getting all the information is taking a little bit longer. So TRID itself requires that the client have a certain amount of information on their closing disclosure, their final numbers, 3 business days prior to closing. Where that gets a little hairy is if you have someone that is not able to do electronic signing or receive a copy of that closing disclosure ahead of time, that you have to go by the snail mail rule, which is 7 business days that it has to be postmarked. Which the closing disclosure, for anyone that's on the online that's not aware, that is the form that replaced the truth in lending and the settlement statement or HUD statement at closing. So it's just a little bit more upfront legwork also on
takes a little bit
on estimating.
longer.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
For the buyer, the whole process can be, in the seller too, the whole process can be very overwhelming. And to me, that's why it's so important to have someone out there that are willing to sit down and give that person the guidance. That's why I don't look at myself as a salesperson, as more of a coach, a consultant to help people and guide them to the right people. And saying that, I would suggest that you guys post, and I just posted my web address in the comments, so people who are listening can reach out to you, or if they have questions that they rather not ask here but contact you later. Feel free to post your web address, how you contact. This it's just a good way to reach out, be able to people reach out to you. Again. So, Cammie, tell me some things that how can a buyer, a seller, both, either one of them, help themselves with the title company. When you're going through your process, a buyer and a seller, is my understanding, the title company needs to research them. So let's say there's a bankruptcy or something out there that has to be addressed. Can you share just a little bit on that side?
Yes. Actually, you need to have, when you turn it in, you need to have your middle initial on everything, because say I have a Ralph Smith, there may be hundreds of judgments that come up. So we got to eliminate those to make sure that they're not on that person. So we always suggest that you have your middle initial, your full name, any kind of information like that when you're purchasing a home. That always helps for us.
This question is for Cammie and for Michelle. Buyers and sellers, when they're in this process, of what importance is it for them to respond to communication? Is it utmost importance to get this stuff done in a very timely manner, or can they just drag their feet? And so you have a question, for example, on the seller side, the seller has a mortgage. Can they wait until the day of closing to tell you their loan information, or how can they make this transaction run smoothly?
Cammie, I'll let you start since we talked about the seller. Oh, I'll start. I'm not sure she heard the question. I think that's the biggest thing of where trade.
Is anybody else dragging really bad?
Yeah, a little bit. Did you hear the question, Cammie? The question was, how important is it for either the buyer or seller to respond quickly to communication?
I'm not sure. I think this is the biggest thing for
Really bad.
Real bad echo.
Did you hear the question, Cammie?
No, you're dragging real bad.
The question was, how important is it for either the buyer or sellers to respond quickly to communicate?
Can you refresh yourself?
Echo.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's all kinds of noise coming from here.
Okay, yeah. That does happen frequently on this platform. You get a bad internet connection, a little bit slow, but hopefully she'll hop back in. But Michelle, would you like to respond to that question, the importance for the buyers or sellers to respond quickly to communication in the process?
It's of the utmost importance, because if things come up in the middle of the process, I don't think the consumer understands what has to happen on the back end for us to clear it. So knowing everything up front, especially with the new TRID laws, is extremely important, so we can clear if it's an FHA loan. Anyone that's involved with the transaction has to go through a clearance. Actually, all loans require that, but FHA has another step that's required in it. A lot of stuff that comes up on the loan side with the buyers is that they don't disclose all the properties that they own. So then in the middle of the transaction, we're trying to collect information because we have to include the property taxes and the homeowner's insurance as part of their liabilities in their overall debt to income ratio. So we need to know that information up front. Home insurance, letting us know what their homeowner's insurance is going to be is really important as well. That obviously affects their overall payment, which goes into their debt to income ratios. And that's part of just gathering as much information as we can up front.
Welcome
back, Cammie.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. All I heard was a bunch of people talking and then it went out.
Sorry about that.
That's
So
a
what I
part of
hear
doing it on cell phone.
what I hear you say, Michelle, is honesty is the best policy. When somebody does for example, loan application, put all their laundry out, because
Absolutely.
you're going to find out. If there
That's
was
right.
for example, a divorce, there's back child support or something, those things are going to come out of the closet.
As soon as we run title work,
Right.
it's all going to come to the lender.
Right.
Yes.
And be prepared to supply the divorce decree or bankruptcy documents. And it's not that we want to know all your skeletons in your closet, but unfortunately we have to clear to make sure there's not any more liabilities out there. And I think some people have a hard time with that because they do want to leave some things locked up, but we have to review them and sign off on them to make sure there's no additional
Absolutely.
liability.
And now that we can hear you again,
I'm sorry.
The question I had about the importance of quick correspondence between the title company and the seller or the buyer when you need requesting information from them. How important is that? Or can I, as a seller, I wait till the day of closing to tell you that I have you're going to find out I have a loan, but to give you the contact information and sign off that you can talk to the lender and pull up the loan information.
Then you're probably not going to close because, of course, we got to have that stuff right away. So it is very important. When we email you, it is to clear the title so that we can close the loan. So it is very important to get back to us as soon as possible with any information that we need for the realtor to get back to us and for us to get back with the lender also, or the inspector.
Getting back to inspections, Kevin, the buyer, when they go out and do have the inspection done, is it possible that there may be some things that will come up at a later date that was not disclosed in the inspection?
So you mean come up after the inspection?
Well, yeah, that I go out and buy a house, I have you inspect it, and 2 months, 3 months later, I start fiddling around and I find things. Is that uncommon that there's things that find an outlet that's not working? That wasn't in the inspection report. I guess the point I was getting at is you're there for a couple hours, you do a thorough inspection, but the inspection, sometimes there's going to be some things that just unforeseen.
Sure. We have hundreds of things to look at during a 2 hour or 3 hour period, and so it's not like we're living in the house for 24/7. If you are living in the house, that's the best way to have these things come up. But yeah, things do come up from time to time. If it didn't present itself during the inspection, it could still be a hidden problem that we didn't find. As a company, we do have some controls on that. We have 90-day limited warranty on all of our inspections. So if we inspect, say, a water heater, and it's fine when I'm there, but a month later it goes out, that's covered under that 90-day limited warranty. It is a limited warranty. It's not going to cover everything, but for things like a water heater, it would. So we also have a superior service guarantee. If for some reason you feel like any of our inspectors didn't do a good job for you, you would get your money back. There's things that we have that can protect you from that.
So you try to back up, you do the best you possibly can do at the day of inspection.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're there to do a job for our client. We want to find as many things as we can, good and bad, with the house. And so that's kind of where we're at with it.
In the homeowner, you also offer what's called a home warranty on the property that can kind of help cover some of those things. Let's say a dishwasher 6 months down the road, blows up.
Mm-hmm.
There's also other options out there that it's not mandatory, but there are options that one can take.
Yeah, our company does also have warranty, like you're talking about, like 1 year home warranties. That's an extra fee, obviously. It doesn't come with the inspection, but does cover most of the mechanicals. So if we do the inspection and everything was fine with the furnace, then and it goes out within that year, then there's some coverage there for you.
Michelle, you have any other comments? What things would you suggest to that buyer that's just thinking about getting in the market to look at homes? How would you handle the first, if I come to you and say, Michelle, I'm thinking about buying a house, what should I do?
Well, I would first talk about the credit, what they've done to establish their credit, if there's anything outstanding that is of concern that would need to be addressed. The other thing is, a lot of times, I don't know why as humans, but when we go to buy a house, we buy a car. It seems to be that everybody they purchase a vehicle about 3 months before they buy a car. I don't know if they test themselves with that payment first, then they feel comfortable. So a lot of people need to understand that opening that new credit 2 or 3 months prior to applying for a mortgage is going to drop your score a little bit. It takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months to kind of reestablish from that, setting up that new installment loan. So trying to stay away from that. Also managing your credit cards properly. Credit cards are an awesome tool to establish credit. But a lot of misconception with the credit cards is that people think they can charge whatever on them as long as they pay them off every month, which is not accurate. You have to maintain that 30% kind of limit is going to get you the best ratio towards your credit score. So whatever your balance is on your statement when it cycles, that's what reports on your credit bureau, not after you make your payment. Because if you charge on it again, that new balance when your new statement comes out, that's what reports on the bureau. And when you exceed that 50% mark, it kills it.
Does it affect your credit when people do that credit report online all the time? No? Okay.
No. And Credit Karma is something that we combat quite often because what the score that Credit Karma shows is not what we're going to pull. There's different platforms of credit scores. The most stringent is going to be from the mortgage side. I like Credit Karma from the perspective of it does help the consumer manage their credit. So you can see when there's a change to your credit. You can see if you are trying to pay off some debt, when that falls off, when your score is adjusting, but the actual score that Credit Karma shows is not what we're going to pull. I've seen it be anywhere from 20 to 40 points off, actually.
You almost answered the question. I don't know that I phrased it that way, but you pulled out exactly what I was looking for. One other point that I was looking at is your ratios, and you were talking about that car. And as sometimes when you're approved for the loan, and someone decides that now I'm going to go out and buy a car after they contracted the property, they approved for it.
Don't do that.
What is the hiccup there?
Well, there's a change in your credit. Not only, we don't necessarily have to re-pull, but your ratios, exactly. So you're approved based off of your debt being at this level. You go and you get new debt, that changes. So don't make any changes to your credit after you've applied for a mortgage. If it's an absolute must, then let's discuss it and see what we need to do. Same with employment. I can't tell you how many times I've had where a client has changed their job in the middle of a contract or a couple days before closing, not understanding that they think they're in the same line of work, they're making the same amount of money, no big deal. It's a huge deal. So that's another thing that we really say not to do. Don't make any life changes while you're going through the process.
Good to know.
Yeah. So after I close, I'm at a job and I'm driving this clunker, and I close. What would happen the day after closing? I get a job offer. I'm a realtor now. I get a job offer as a insurance agent that I'm going to make double the money. And because I'm going to be an insurance agent and need to travel more, so I decided to go buy a different car. Is that going to, you're not going to come back and grab my house back away from me? No, not at all. I guess what I'm trying to make is people sometimes have to be patient. I'm not suggesting that they go out and create more debt, but sometimes be patient to get the process done, and then move on from there.
Right. Move on with your life and what you need to do to advance. Absolutely. Yeah. No, we won't come back and take the house. Just make sure that it fits within your budget. That's another big process in the very beginning that I do with my clients, especially working with a lot of first-time home buyers. For example, I met with someone yesterday, just out of college, just got their first job. The first question I ask is, how much of a payment can you afford? What fits within your budget? And I kind of get that deer in the headlights look of, I don't know. They're living at home. They don't even have a rent payment. So I have a simple budget system so they can see it on paper. This is what I have coming in. This is what I have going out. Estimated electric bill, water bill. You can plug in your cell phone bill. So they can have an understanding and see it on paper of how that does fit within their budget. Just because I can approve them for a $1,000 house payment doesn't mean that that's what fits within their budget.
How do they establish credit, like kids coming out of college and stuff like that? A lot of times you can't get a credit card, or.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, an unsecured credit card reflects the same on your credit as a secured credit card reflects the same as an unsecured. So if you cannot get a credit card, you can do a secured credit card where you give them the money. Mm-hmm. They put that on the credit card, just like anything prepaid. That's your limit. So if you do a $300 credit card, 30% of that's $90. So you don't want to charge more than $90 on that $300 credit limit. And getting a small loan. I know that there's some institutions that are doing credit builder loans, mm-hmm. and they will give you an unsecured loan. They put it into a bank account, and then they automatically draft the payment out of that account to pay back the loan. When I was younger, that's actually what I did. And you can kill two birds with one stone that way. You can go out, get an unsecured credit card or unsecured loan. You're probably going to pay high interest, right, but start somewhere. Take that money, open up a secured credit card. So now you've got 2 lines of credit established. Or you can take that money from that unsecured loan and put it in the bank and pay it back. And then you have 1 or 2 small payments of interest at the very end. But with that, make sure that you go the full term. Some people think if they pay credit off early, that shows good borrowing. We actually want to see longevity, that you can make those payments month after month as agreed.
Thank you.
That's very interesting. Yes. Kevin, you have other comments from the buyer's perspective, things that you experience out there on inspections, not photos of houses of what were you thinking?
Yeah, what's some of the craziest things you've seen?
Exactly.
Well, some of the craziest things I can't really mention here.
You can't picture that.
We probably don't want to know.
I mean, most of the things that we find, on a given house, say on an average house, we'll see, maybe 10 to 20 things that are important enough to where they would want to get them fixed right away. Most of the big issues are electrical and plumbing. Water in a house is, probably the worst of the problems, because you have plumbing issues you can have, and you can have rainwater issues, stormwater issues, whether it's coming in the foundation or from the roof. Those are the biggest issues that you can find, and that's what usually gives the buyer a little bit of pause to, that they want to know that kind of that kind of stuff. And then also big ticket items like a roof might cost anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000 and up to replace a roof. Sometimes they're not counting on that. The roof looks fine from the ground, and when it looks fine from the ground for us too, but when we get up on the ladder and we walk the roof, it looks totally different from up above. So,
during your inspections, do you like to have the buyer there present?
absolutely. Yes, I was just talking to a client this morning. So many times the client, buyer of the house, contracts us to do the inspection, and they don't elect to show up to the inspection. So they're kind of wasting their money because they're not really wasting their money, but they could be getting so much more value out of that inspection by being there and asking questions and seeing things firsthand than just seeing it on a report. Even though our report has a lot of photos in it, it still doesn't, it's not like being there.
And do you make suggestions or point things out? For example, if the dirt is starting to slope to the house, you make recommendations of, correcting the drainage and
Sure.
changing furnace filters and regular maintenance items.
Oh, sure, yeah. And if our client can follow us around during the inspection, they're going to get the benefit of all of that. But as far as the grade on the outside of the house, that's probably 99% of the houses need to have that corrected. That's a pretty common issue. So,
I have a question here. Is a deed a living will? My grandmother just passed, and the deed was previously in 3 of the children's names. Her new deed has it on just the 2 daughters, one of which is my mom.
Child removed from the new deed is saying it's invalid.
I'm reading it too. Yeah. Now they're asking if it's in a will. My grandmother just passed away. 3 months child name. I'm sorry, I'm reading it at the same time.
And I want to point out that we're from Missouri, and depending on where you're from, some state laws are vary and differ. A deed, a deed is a Michelle, talk about the deed, on a mortgage deed.
Yeah, it depends on what type of deed it is, and Cammie can allude a little bit more. I mean, a mortgage deed is the lien on the property. Was it a quitclaim deed, changing it from the 3 children to the 2? Do you know what type of deed it was?
And I bet they didn't run the title work as far as to see exactly what the will said, because the title company would actually prepare that deed for you so that it wouldn't be invalid. And I'm curious, is it a quitclaim deed that they just hand wrote themselves?
So I guess, is the deed a living will? And I guess that question would be no. No. The deed is the ownership of the property. Is that correct?
Right.
Or a beneficiary deed. But if it's a beneficiary deed, on her passing, it automatically goes to those that are on the beneficiary deed, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. She passed before Christmas.
So, I mean, I know someone whose mother is still alive. She deeded, the mother deeded her house to her children while she was still alive. So then if something happened to her, they didn't have to worry about probate or anything of that nature. Maybe it sounds a little bit like that's what the case was, but then there was a deed that followed it, removing the one person.
Maybe a will was.
Yeah. I would suggest maybe contacting the attorney who drew the will up, or even your local title company. The title company, if necessary, correct me if I'm wrong, could do title search to see that property is actually recorded.
Yes, they'll do a title report, and then that'll show them exactly who owns the property after they've checked the will and the probate and all that.
So hopefully we gave you some direction. Like I said before, we're not attorneys. However, being in the business, sometimes as a consultant, we can guide you to the right people to answer that question. And I would think, number one, talk to the attorney who drafted the will, if that, or to the title company to pull the title to see exactly how that is deeded. And naturally, it gets confusing because the will, it may be deeded in just in that person's name, but the will may stipulate how that property will be divided, and that's the fund the title company would come in to make sure all that stuff is done. Perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to give my mom some direction. We're glad we could help. That made this whole blab worthwhile. Wouldn't you say?
There you go.
It is giving that we receive. So it's 12:51. Other comments from you guys, just your recommendations or suggestions that you would like to put out there for consumers to be aware of that would help them in the buying and selling process.
Oh, sorry.
Kevin,
I can start. So whenever a consumer is at the point that they want to pursue a home purchase, understanding their employment situation, what their hours are. It's, again, we're in the state of Missouri, but most guidelines are pretty much the same as far as mortgages go, from my understanding. Overtime, you need 2 years of overtime. You don't have to have 2 years on your job necessarily, but having the breakdown of that, knowing your hours, knowing what you get paid an hour, knowing what you have in the savings, that does make a difference. Even if you're utilizing a financing type that does not require down payment, still having savings in the bank is very important. Eventually, something will go wrong with the home when you first buy a home, and having the money in the bank for that, even though Kevin is awesome and will make sure that they double check everything, inevitably something goes wrong.
And I always recommend to the buyers, don't buy property off the courthouse steps, or don't buy it from an individual unless you know them without running title work first, just to make sure you have a clear title, so that if you want to build on it later or sell it and they run title work, you want to have all that taken care of right up front.
A question for Michelle. A person owning a home decides to sell the home and upgrade. Would you suggest that they come talk to you prior to putting their home on the market to see what they qualify in today's market?
Yes, absolutely. Taxes and insurance, they may have not escrowed before. They may want to escrow now. Their income situation may have changed. And just if they've not checked their credit, they don't know what's out there. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I talk to a lot of current homeowners that do that.
That's the last thing that I've experienced, that where fortunately someone is going to co-sign, but a couple listed their home. I suggested that, months before, when I previewed the home and made recommendations of getting the house ready for the market, that they talk to their lender. And, they said, yeah, we got that taken care of. Well, we sold their house, contracted another one, to come find out that there were some other things that happened that they had to get a co-signer.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately for the co-signer, they're not a house and home. But, this is, I guess the point I'm trying to make to, give to the consumers out there in the world, no matter if you're the first time home buyer or if you're been in a house for 25 years, if you're looking to change sometimes it's just very simple. Take some steps that are going to help you through this process. And if somebody, here again, we talked about a divorce case where, if there's something on the divorce decree that may cause hiccups in the lending process or, the selling. I experienced one where the divorce decree stated that she could live in a home, but upon selling, she was going to have to give up a share of that profit, the proceeds. And she kind of failed to, it was a dollar amount, and the market had changed quite substantially in her property, and she ended up contracting the house instead of investigating. And we don't investigate that stuff. I consult with people and give them direction, but I don't physically go out and investigate it for them. Well, after we contracted, she found out that she's not getting anything out of the house. And that's not the type of transactions that I think any of us want to be involved in, rather give good direction. And real quickly, Kevin, on a home seller, do you do pre-inspections?
We do them. We don't do very many of them. I guess the sellers just don't want to have that expense, but we don't do that many. 99% of what we do is for a buyer. So, and what I would tell a buyer is make sure in the contract how many days you have to get your home inspection done and back to the selling side, and get your list of inspectors, give them a call, pick one that you feel comfortable with, and get the inspection scheduled as soon as you can. It gives you a little bit more time after the inspection to kind of talk about it with your realtor and whomever and make some decisions.
What is your lag time? In the contract it states 10 days by default, but we can write in, whatever we negotiate, the time frame. From the time you're notified to the time that you can do inspections. I know that changes. Sometimes you get busier than others, but generally, approximately how much time,
Well, this time of year, I'm scheduled out about 4 or 5 days. In the spring and summer, it can be a week to 10 days. So,
and how long does it take you to get those reports out once you do the inspection?
Same day, sometimes no later than 24 hours.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, that's good information for the consumer to know that, so they have some type of time schedule,
Right. Correct.
Tammy, you have, any other comments that you would like to, present here?
Well, I know we always recommend that you have title work to us 7 to 10 days or have your contract in 7 to 10 days prior to when you need it. So that way we can run it too. So it does take us a little bit longer also.
Okay. I mean, so the what I hear, from everyone is time is of essence.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's better to be very proactive. You get a contract written. I help a buyer purchase a house, and to go out and contact the inspector right away that day, rather than wait a couple days, because that time is within that time frame, and it doesn't matter. You have to renegotiate that time frame. For example, if Kevin's 10, 12 days out and the contract calls for 10 days, we have to go back to that seller to try to renegotiate that time frame, or we have to look for a different inspector. Okay. And same way with Michelle, you need to get that process going. So your loan processing, so that you can get your things done in time for loan commitment and time for closing. And that way, if there's any hiccups, for example, we were talking about, a divorce decree, if there's something in there that you discover then you have time to work it out and get it taken care of. So I think the summary up here is to reach out to the people that you trust to get the process going and do it sooner than later. And it's better to be have everything, your ducks in a row, and twiddle your thumbs waiting than to come to the day of closing sweating bullets because things aren't done. That would be a general.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I would like to thank all of you guys for joining me today. To me, I feel it was a very informational blab for the consumer. And our goal is to do these the first Monday the first Thursday and the third Thursday of the month at noon Central Standard Time. And, feel free to reach out, with questions as we put our contact information in the lines there. Feel free to reach out to us to ask questions or any comments. So with that, I would like to sign off and say thanks again, guys, for joining, and have an outstanding day.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.